South Korea's impeached President Yoon Suk Yeol is set to undergo further questioning today over his short-lived martial law bid last month.
The incumbent leader became the first sitting president to be arrested by police yesterday over insurrection allegations, ending a weeks-long political standoff. Mr. Yoon was escorted to the Seoul detention center last night after he was interrogated for more than 10 hours at the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials. But the leader refused to provide any statements regarding his attempt to place the nation under military rule. He will be questioned again this afternoon.
The CIO has until tomorrow morning to file a warrant to detain him for up to 20 days. In a pre-recorded video message, the suspended leader alleged that the law in the country had collapsed and that he was only complying to avoid any violence.
Well, thousands of police officers armed with ladders and wire cutters stormed his residence in the early hours of yesterday to bring him into custody. Minor scuffles reportedly broke out between police and pro-Yoon protesters. The unprecedented move comes after an earlier attempt to arrest the leader was blocked by presidential security.
South Korea's constitutional court will hold oral arguments in the trial of President Yoon's impeachment later today. It's expected to hear more substantive arguments. At the previous session, scheduled earlier this week, ended in minutes after Mr. Yoon failed to show up.
We are joined by Hwang Kyung Moon. He's Korea Foundation professor at the Australian National University. Professor Hwang, thank you so much for joining us. I want to start by asking you about what local media reports are saying, that the suspended president chose to remain silent when he was questioned for, 10 hours on Wednesday. So are you expecting investigators to make a court request for the formal arrest of the suspended president and extend his detention beyond the 48 hours that they have?
Oh, I think everybody expects that formal request to detain him for another 3 weeks will be undertaken today. And they won't even wait until tomorrow morning when the 48-hour period ends.
All right, so Professor, even if they get that extension, do you think the investigators will manage to gather enough evidence? I mean, what sort of challenges do you foresee in this investigation?
Well, I'm not a legal expert, but I've been following a lot of the experts on the news shows, and I think there is just no room for debate about the amount of evidence there is to not only detain Yoon, but to convict him, certainly enough to indict him and to keep him in jail until his trial. I wouldn't think that anybody except for his most fervent supporters, who are numerous, although not as numerous as what I think most foreign media outlets have suggested. But aside from them, and their political representatives in the ruling party, the general consensus is that there's enough evidence gathered over the past, a month and a half, to first detain him, then to indict him, and then in court to convict him as well. And so I think there's a very good chance, unless he is pardoned sometime down the line, that yesterday was the last day of his life in which he spends out of jail.
Okay, so Professor, I wonder what's your read on why Mr. Yoon is refusing to cooperate with investigators. I mean, he, as a former chief prosecutor, he must well know and aware of the implications. What's the risk of it backfiring and worsening his position?
Well, I don't know if his position could be worsened any further. It seems most people believe that this is a strategy of just reinforcing his claim that his arrest was illegal. And that he does not recognize not only the legality of his arrest, but the legality of this particular court in Seoul in arresting him and even to investigate him. This has all been cleared by the courts as to the legality of all this. But I think he is in a desperation situation. And so any hint from his perspective that he recognizes the validity of what he is undergoing is something that he cannot tolerate. So this is it's much more about the public relations than anything else. But it's really interesting that the reports from his questioning last night and yesterday include this factoid that he refused to even answer the question confirming his own name. And so he has been completely silent in the face of apparently 200 pages of questions that the prosecutors have prepared.
Professor, meantime, the Constitutional Court scheduled to hold its second formal hearing on Yoon's impeachment today. Will events of the past 24 hours and also his refusal to cooperate have any bearing on today's session? And I guess also the broader work the court is doing on this particular case?
Well, again, I want to emphasize that I'm not a legal expert, although I am following this very closely through media outlets that bring in legal experts. But it appears that the legal experts observing this don't think that the happenings yesterday surrounding his arrest and the siege that he put up to resist arrest over the past couple of weeks will help him in any way with the separate matter, which is supposed to be separate from his criminal investigation, and that separate matter being his impeachment, and the matter before the Constitutional Court right now, which is to either verify or cancel the impeachment voted on by the Parliament a month ago.
Okay, Professor. Now that Mr. Yoon is detained, do you see this as a potential turning point that could serve as a first step towards restoring order and stability, or could further exacerbate existing political divisions?
Well, I don't think it's a turning point as much as it's the next step that the country must undergo in order to recover from the shock of the martial law declaration from December 3rd. It's a step-by-step process that has been clear in terms of what the legal framework would be. It's all laid out in the law, and now it's a matter of undergoing that process, in a step-by-step process. And so yesterday was a major advance in that process that ultimately, I hope, will lead to the conviction of this man for his crimes, and then also the removal of him from office by the Constitutional Court, which would then set in place the 60-day window for the next presidential election to take place. And so if everything goes according to this tentative schedule, we could have a presidential election in perhaps late April or May, and then we would have a new president in office by June or July.
Understood, and we will be tracking these developments very closely as well. We thank you, meantime, for your time, Professor. Hwang Kyung Moon is Korea Foundation Professor at the Australian National University.